Okay, we're preparing. It might just go live actually, so we might be good. I might not need a text from you, Russ. I'll let you know once it's up. If it's up. Oh, we are live. Woohoo.
It's happening.
It's all happening. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, let's jump in then, shall we? Welcome everybody to another episode of Dispatch Radio. Today we're bringing you what we're calling a coach's corner. We've got an endurance coach and adventure coach with us, Michele Dillon. Michele, hello. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
And we've got a cast of other characters with us today. Clair Jones Wilson is a client of Michele's, and so we'll be chatting with Clair a little bit. Hello, Clair. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Happy Wednesday.
I'm also joined today by my sturdy oak, Will Carr. What's up, Will?
Yo. What's up, Russ?
And we've got everybody is excited to hear Michele. Michele. I am loopy today, guys. And Dispatch Radio listeners will be happy to hear we've got Kelly McConnell back in the house. Hello, Kelly.
Woo-hoo.
Hi. Good to see you guys.
All right. Oh, look at okay, there. I took a shower for y'all. You're welcome. Yeah. See, I've been a little banged up, just kind of getting healing from some injuries, and I won't tell the boring story anymore. Listeners that were tuned in last time can tune in for the boring story. The new story going forward, Jake, we talked about this. Trampled by donkeys. That's what happened. Everyone wants to know what happened to me and how I broke ribs and an arm and a face. Trampled by donkeys. I mentioned Jake. Jake, what's up? He's joining us today.
It's good. It's good.
What's going on? Jake has been doing a ton behind the scenes here at Dispatch Radio. If you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, if you're checking out the website, if you're checking out YouTube, if you're listening to this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever, or if you're tuned in live with us over YouTube, as you should be on Wednesdays at noon Mountain Time, it's Jake making all that happen. So woohoo! Thank you, Jake, for doing all that. Kelly McConnell, what the heck have you been up to?
I was just in Aspen for like 6 days and I just got back. So it was good. The skiing isn't as great as I want it to be, but it's gorgeous out, of course. So.
Not getting the snowfall that we're known for. That global weirding, it's real.
It is real.
I guarantee that this was going to happen when I bought my Keystone Pass.
Well, you know what? You're not missing anything right now. So.
Right. That's what everybody tells me. Michele, are you a skier?
I am not a skier.
Not a skier.
I try to tell myself I will be, and then I'm like, nope.
Now, Michele, if I recall correctly, you are an OG FOTS, friend of the show. You've been with us for quite a while, right?
Yeah, I got to sit in on an episode like maybe 3 or 4 years ago with Clair Gallagher.
Yeah, Clair, one of our all-time favorites.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of crush on Clair?
Oh yeah, she's still my favorite.
She's still out there killing it, right?
Oh yeah. Every time I see her out in the wild, she always stops and says hi to me. So.
Well, so first we got to ask Michele, adventure coach, what is it? What does it entail? What kind of people do you work with? What kind of stuff comes up in this line of work?
Yeah, so I kind of frame it as adventure coach, but it's kind of all encompassing. So like I'd have like runners who run on the road, runners who run on the trails, people who just want to like adventure in the mountains. But mainly I work with a lot of beginners who want to get into all of that stuff, but don't know where to start because it seems too intimidating, or they just haven't done it for very long, or just like looking for recommendations, a cheerleader, a person who can kind of help them make those choices and make the right ones so they don't like injure themselves.
And if I recall, this was you not too long ago.
Yes. You mean like I do those things myself, you mean?
Yeah. So you were like the clients that you're helping, you were in their shoes,
Yep.
what, maybe 8 years ago?
Yeah, I am a pretty new runner as opposed to anybody else who's been doing this. I feel like most of the runners, especially in Boulder, have been doing it all their lives. So I've been running for about like 8 to 10 years myself, and then coaching for 3.
And what's your kind of journey look like? A lot of people have kind of, I got into it because I like this, but then I found out, ooh, I really like, for me, for example, I started short on the roads because it was like we would do team events and it was fun through my work. And then I was like, oh, you can run on the trails. Oh, that's cool. And then it was like, oh, you can run long on the trails. Oh, that's neat. And then it was like, oh, you can run with donkeys. Then I was like, oh, okay.
You were done for.
Yeah. So what was your journey like?
It was kind of funny when I was like mid-20s. I witnessed one of my friends do an Ironman, and I was like, never had run any, not even a 5K in my life. And I saw that and I was super inspired. And that's what made me just decide I wanted to run a marathon. And then from there, I kind of just discovered trail running through Instagram and other people who were going to all these cool places. And I was like, that sounds way more fun than running on the road. So I just kind of ventured into it that way. Yeah, that's kind of the story. And then once I moved to Colorado and there was all these trails, access and mountains here, it was just like, I was done for. Like, that was all I could do.
Then you also said kind of now your jam is more what? It's kind of evolved a bit more to kind of the Alpine style you mentioned.
Yeah, I don't do as much racing anymore just because personally I feel like it's not my thing anymore, but I really train so that I can go up into the mountains in the 13ers and 14ers over the summer season. Not a winter girl because I'm too much of a lazy person for that, but
and we've got Claire, as I mentioned on the show, who is she kind of emblematic of the type of clients you typically see?
Yeah, she kind of does the same thing I do. She likes to race. She's doing the Behind the Rocks 50K coming up in is it March?
Mm-hmm.
I have to remind myself. So yeah. But she also is really into doing like the climbing the mountains, and she wants to like adventure out there, and she has her eyes set on like doing some FKTs possibly, and she just wants to explore everything. So she's kind of like the epitome of who I train and who I love to train.
A quick pause. Jake, are you there?
I am here.
Is my mic picking up? Is it causing trouble for you because I don't have my earphones?
I'm not hearing anything now. It's pretty good about filtering that stuff out, so we should be good.
Okay, so nobody's having issues hearing. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry to pause. Okay. Well, great. Well, and Behind the Rocks. So Mad Moose, just real quick and aside, we've done a kind of a race profile of that race. We got to meet Courtney DeWalter when she I want to say she beat the second place person by over an hour or something. I mean, something ridiculous. And she just comes to the tent and hangs out. And she's just so nice after running. I don't know. I think, is it 50 miles, the long version? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Claire, what makes you want to do this stuff? Like where are you at right now in life? And what makes you want to go run an ultra marathon right now? Why does that sound like such a great idea?
Oh, that's a great question. Masochism, trauma. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. I've been running all my life as part of sports, and about 4 years ago, we moved to Colorado. Prior to that, I was in Chicago, and I was running a lot of road half marathons. And similar to Michele, somehow the algorithm caught me on social media, and I was like, trail running, ultra running, what are all these things? And I had been thinking about running a marathon, and I had started to train for one. And then I was like, no, I'll just do an ultra. And in that entire time, we moved to Denver, and then I got introduced to trail running, and it kind of just spiraled from there. And in 2019, I started training for my first ultra with fits and starts without a coach. injured myself. Came up with my own training plan.
What happened? Did you overtrain?
I think I just overtrained. Yeah, you go from
Kelly, can you believe that? Can you believe a beginner could get injured overtraining?
Yep. That was the story of my life too. Just like in Chicago, even training for half marathons I was just doing all the wrong things. And I've always loved the outdoors. And I just, speaking of joy, there's something about the joy of going out and being outside for 12 hours and pushing yourself. And sometimes even when it's like type 2+ fun, you look back at it with a lot of joy. And it's just, at this point, running and long endurance events just feel like they're a meditative practice almost, even when they're not. Maybe sometimes and more in hindsight, So yeah, last year was my first like official event that I made it to, and I ran the Behind the Rocks 50K. And had my first issues with like fueling issues and nausea and
Wheels came off.
Yeah, exactly.
What mile did the wheels start coming off?
Right about mile like 20.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
And you did a 50K, so this is how many miles? 30?
I think it's like 30 or 32. I forget exactly how much.
You had 10 miles that you needed to get through what you had. So nutrition problems and then some sort of pain.
Yeah, just like I never have like issues with my stomach and running. It was the first time I'd ever encountered that. I think part of it was going from training here where it was much colder, and then it was like 70 degrees that day, which felt really hot. All those things. But after that,
It was a DNF. It was a did not finish.
I did finish. I finished
Whoa.
about an hour and a half later than I wanted to, but I made it. So that counts.
Hey, congratulations.
After that, yeah,
that's almost bigger than a good time. And a lot of times
it was still fun. Even through the pain, it was still fun. But after that, I was like, yeah, I can't program myself anymore. I need to find somebody who knows what they're doing, which led me to Michele. Yeah.
I want to bring Kelly and Will here in on the discussion. I mentioned we got Kelly back, longtime host of the show, OG, helped us create this show. She was down in the basement at Sean's place. That night we were dreaming up what this dispatch radio would look like. Kelly, she just said something interesting, didn't she, say about the meditation, right?
And I was thinking about how I study meditation for a long, long time. But I was thinking when you said that, and, the difficult part and the wheels coming off and even when you know what you're doing and you have everything dialed, sometimes the wheels come off. And it's like that with meditation too, right? You're like, oh, I'm so good at this. I'm not thinking of anything today. And then you do, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you're racing around in your head and can't.
I had a little bit of a therapist I was working with, like a life coach kind of person. And he was really recommending, getting that meditation practice going. This is an aside, sorry. I tried for like 7 days in a row. I tried, dang it. I tried. I never got quiet.
Well, I think that's what it is, Russ. Like, don't pressure yourself. Like, meditation doesn't have to be anything. I think that's why a lot of people have this idea in their mind of what meditation is supposed to be. And they have this idea that when they meditate, they have expectations of the way they're supposed to feel, and the way their mind's supposed to go silent or whatever. But, I think that's why, the practice of meditation is about if you don't bring that practice into the things that you're doing in your daily life, then you're really missing the whole point of meditation, because it's not about being able to sit on a pillow and just clear your mind of thoughts for 30 minutes every day. It's about being able to take that into your life, and whether it's like work or stressful situations or crazy things are going on with your kids at home, or whether you're running an ultra marathon, whatever the stress, whatever the distraction, whatever the outside stimuli is, meditation is about being able to center yourself and come back to a sense of normalcy, and come back to a place where you can be clear-minded, rather than reacting. You can make decisions from a place of of clarity. And so I think people way too much try to put pressure on like what meditation is supposed to be. And I think that's why people's meditation practices don't last long. Because it's like what you said, oh, I tried for 7 days and I still just had thoughts racing. Well, that's cool.
All right, well, I got to know this because Will is like, he's a very balanced guy. He's got a very healthy family life. They get outdoors together. They take trips. Really hard to rattle Will or get him frazzled. What's the last time, Will, that the wheels came off for you in some sort of context? Where I'll just leave it at that.
Oh man.
Yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like my whole life, I'm just trying to like put out fires, but that's like what the fun is for me. I don't know, or like the wheels really came off. I guess when my grandma died a year ago, I don't know, that was hard. Like, and things like my business, I had an instance, maybe a little over a year ago where I lost like 75 grand in inventory on like an Amazon hack. That was a crazy situation. But then, I look at all that stuff, it's perspective, like I wake up every day and like, I'm like, is my family healthy? Am I healthy? I don't have problems, like no matter what is going on, it's like, I don't have problems. And I think that's what's cool about, I'm not a runner. I played basketball. I'm 6'10". Running was always punishment to me, doing suicides on the court. But, it's like any of those things, it's just learning to deal with that adversity and actually being comfortable in adversity. I think that's where like the secret behind all that is. And that's where the secret behind even meditation is. Because if you're just uncomfortable sitting in your own thoughts, you need to be able to get comfortable with that. And so, that's where it all comes back. I don't know. That's a crazy question. When was the last time I was like really rattled? I guess that speaks a lot to, the way I approach my life, that I can't really, like you said, I just don't really get.
I'll tell you, my 5-year-old rattles me on like a nearly daily basis. He's just like,
I get irritated.
Figuring out how to like I stay pretty cool most of the time, but he just finds that area. Anyway, where we left off, Claire was telling us about when the wheels were coming off at the Mad Moose event behind the rocks. Claire, I want to bring you back here. So things went badly. You kind of learned, okay, well, maybe I need some help doing this kind of long distance stuff. I understand you found Michele over Insta, as the young people do. And it's so many kids these days. I say kids because I'm an old person. I can say things like that. Instead of giving me their cell number, like give me, DM. I'm like, I'm too old to DM you on Insta. I'm sorry. Anyway, another aside. It's the day of asides. So Claire, you get hooked up with Michele. What are you initially looking at, looking for? What are your expectations? And I'd like to hear kind of what that interaction sounds like and what types of things you especially kind of approaching, a race. So kind of start from the beginning. The first time you meet Michele, what types of things are on the table that you're going to work with? And then Michele, maybe you could tell us kind of what's your approach kind of moving forward from that? How did you kind of dissect the problem and then start coming up with a formula for success for her?
Yeah. So on the same topic of Instagram, I've been a long time follower of Michele. So essentially when I reached out to her, I had already vibed so hard with like her, I don't know, just outlook on the outdoors and adventuring. I was pretty much like, I mean, unless I meet her and it like totally is off, like I want her to be my coach.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had pretty much already made up my mind, but
and what did you like about what was your impression, or what had you seen on Insta that you like so much?
I just think Michele is very real. Like
it's too real.
Hey, I love that. But shares her struggles and her ups and her downs, and she makes it known that she's not invincible, and none of us are invincible. We all go through the roller coasters. And I think that that's something that she's always shared, her successes and the times of struggle. And I need more practice in that because I have a very hard time asking for help. So, it was even several months of going through the pain of trying to figure stuff out myself and saying, no, I can read a book and figure it out, to no, maybe I like should invest in this because this is something I love to do. It's something I hope to do for the next, I want to be running ultras in my 70s if my health allows. And I'm not going to do that if I continue to, mess up my training plans.
So the realness that attracted you to Michele, was that kind of like, you're like, I know I need to have like real honest discussions if I'm going to be, was that part of it? Like, I got to be really honest here if I'm going to get where I need to be.
That's part of it too, and I also think like as a recreational runner who's like not particularly talented in the speed department, like I can go all day, but like I'm not, I'm just a normal, average, everyday recreational runner. I wanted someone who was able to have that perspective that like, this is something that I want to do for life, not just to like try and push my performance at every given opportunity. Like this is like a fabric of my being that I needed more direction on rather than like a drill sergeant being like faster on your intervals, like 4 workouts a week, not that would happen, but that kind of thing. I wanted someone who was more her style, which is more adventure coach. It's more, how do you incorporate this into your daily life rather than just a racing season or a racing cycle.
If you kind of broke down what you get out of the coaching, like are there categories or like what are the main things you feel like you get out of it? And talking to coaches, it sounds like motivation is one of them. Like I know like the Roches, for example, like they're constantly texting, yay, congratulations, and you can do it. So, but just kind of from your vantage point.
Yeah, for sure. Like she definitely provides motivation. One of the things I love about Michele too is like she gives me space to figure things out for myself. Like, I went through a period, I'm sure we're going to talk about in November, December, where I wasn't really able to run very much. And I kind of like shut down from because I had to finish grad school, all this stuff. I kind of like shut everything else out of my life except for school. And she sort of gave me the space to do that. But, when I need motivation or when I'm really hard on myself, she's very much like, brings me back to why I even enjoy doing this, why I even enjoy, getting out and pushing myself in the outdoors.
Okay, so that's one aspect. And what else goes into it? I mean, there's some know-how, right? Like she helps you come up with a plan of attack.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I just got a master's in public health. I'm about to take my registered dietetics exam. Very much, love reading research and all that sort of stuff. But I needed someone, I feel like you read 80-20 rule and then you read all this stuff about, all these different things. And so it just kind of leaves you, when I was making my own training plans, that was, I do like to experiment, but I just really needed some direction. I needed to like take that pressure off of like, it's not okay if I miss my long run by 1 mile. And like, I'm learning that sometimes that is okay. Like you can just relax a little. It's added a level of, back to why we're here. It's added a level of joy back into training for objectives because I'm not worrying so much about all the different particulars and trying to take in all this other information. And, it's a collaborative effort too, like she asks me, how are these workouts going? Is this style working for you? And, as long as I'm still running, it is.
And Michele, from your standpoint, when you first got introduced to Clair, like how did you assess the situation and kind of how did you go about putting together the pieces that you felt like she needed?
Yeah, I mean, well, with Clair specifically, she's a very self-motivated individual. So it was really exciting to make a plan for her because, she had all these goals and ideas for what she wanted to do. And so it was kind of like, oh, cool, this is going to be like really fun. We're going to, be on this adventure together. And that was probably one of the easiest things to do with working with Clair because she's very communicative, which is super helpful. If you are an athlete, make sure you communicate with your coach because otherwise they can't really help you that much. But yeah, I think that the biggest thing is that once we started talking about what her goals and what she really wanted to get out of running was, the races she had coming up. And then last year she had this big goal of running the Rampart Ridge Road FKT. And she did that, by the way. But yeah, so
Congratulations. What is that, Claire?
Terribly slow. There just hadn't been a female time set yet. I had
So the Rampart Range, where is that?
It basically goes from Salida to Colorado Springs.
And how long is it?
58 miles.
58 miles. And so now you're the official FKT holder of that segment?
Probably the slowest FKT for that distance of all time.
We call the only known time.
Yeah.
Only known time. Yeah, I like the OKT. That's the site I care about.
That's what I'm going for, you know? It was the
Wait, so how long were you out there?
Oh my God. I think overall moving time was something like 13 hours, but my overall time out there was like 17 because the last 22 miles I could barely walk. I thought I had fractured my foot, but it was just soft tissue injuries. But I was like, once the wheels came off, I was just like, I am already halfway. I must finish. I don't care if I am crawling. It's like, I made my bed. I'm going to lay in it. But yeah, it was,
Ellie, have FKTs ever been of interest to you personally? Have you ever gone after one or?
I know I was going to say, oh, now I should go try to beat that, but
game on.
I don't want to run that far. I'm proud that you even did that.
Yeah, it was a dumb endeavor to run my first 50-mile distance alone. I had no one run with me. My husband crewed me. I had some friends come along the way, but no one actually ran with me.
And was this while you were working with Michele? She signed off on this?
Yep.
Okay. And Michele, is this something you recommend people do?
I mean, I, can only advise to so much. So if I really felt when Claire told me about that goal, she was really excited about it. I knew she was going to be smart. And she just wanted to go for it. And we went into it and being like, hey, like if it becomes impossible, there is no shame in stopping. And she just, found the way to keep going. So I think that like the biggest thing is just making sure and preparing, any of my athletes that want to do something, big and, an accomplishment like that is just making sure they're prepared that, it might not work out, but it's great that you're even going out there and trying. So,
so again, with the, we mentioned this with the first event where you did finish just slower than you thought. I mean, here again, you did finish, even though you thought you had a fractured foot. Boy, so you've got some grit. Do you feel like there were things that you've learned in this coaching that paid off for you to be able to get that goal accomplished?
Yeah, for sure. I think something that Michele is always good at is reminding yourself to not be judgmental of your own self-abilities. And, when I was out there and I didn't want to keep going, I just through the moments of being like, why am I doing this? This is dumb. I should have stopped 10 miles ago when I was, limping. The approach of taking things as an opportunity to see what you're capable of is something that I think Michele inspires me to do. And I think through, watching her journeys too, that is something that is part of her base code too. And so, the mental part was a huge thing that we talked about going into doing that, because I knew it wasn't going to be a fabulously fast time, even if it did work out how I wanted it to work out. My goal was just to finish because there was no female time and I wanted to challenge myself and, wanted to get out there and see what it felt like to run 50 plus miles. And, as far as that was concerned, I finished and I was pretty upset about how the day went. But looking back on it, I've been able to, really appreciate what that experience was and what that experience gave me, which was another great practice in mental grit. And I think part of that is being non-judgmental about your abilities.
Which is also like really important with like when you are losing your joy and motivation for running, to remember that, sometimes you just got to listen to that. And sometimes your body's trying to tell you that you shouldn't do certain things, and even though you totally are capable of it, and you got to combat that somehow. But then there's those moments where it's like, hey, maybe I do actually need a break right now, and it's okay. Like a lot of runners, especially in Boulder, because it's just so competitive here, like they just don't know how to just back off sometimes, and it really in the long run ends up hurting them because they just lose their entire joy for running in the process along the way.
That's a topic we want to get into here on the show today. Kind of what happens when you lose your running mojo and how to get it back, how to find that joy. Kelly and Will, I want to put that up to both of you, and maybe Jake. Has there ever been a time where you've lost your mojo? And if so, do you have your own strategies for like bringing joy back into the things you do? And then we're going to hear Claire's story.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that first. I would say yes, and it's because of some of the things that were just talked about. It's when judgment, or like it's okay to be competitive and like want to do your best, but when it becomes more important to you to like reach a certain goal, or to have to like hit a certain time, or like bench a certain weight, or like whatever. I think that's where you start to lose that joy, rather than being like, when we're kids, we just go and do things because they're fun, and I think just trying to find that, and it comes back to that to your perspective, like what is important. And so when you lose your joy or you lose your mojo, for me, I just try to remind myself, like, what's my passion behind the reason that I do things? And if the answer is like, oh, I can't really figure out what my passion is, then maybe it's time to move on to something else. But if you can, if you have that answer for, this is why I'm passionate about this, this is why I love doing this, this is why I've had joy from this in the past, then you can come back to that why, and focus on that and have that sort of perspective of, this is why I'm doing this, because it's fun to me, because it brings me joy. It makes my life fulfilled. It brings me excitement. And so to me, it's just about perspective.
So about you, Kelly?
Yeah, I had a similar sort of experience. I mean, I was racing and I got caught up in my times and really upset at myself if I was the judgment thing too, if I wasn't getting a certain time, and just in one race, I just stopped and started letting a bunch of women pass me, and then experiencing like what that's like. And then experiencing, 10 years later, going back to a same race and not being obsessed with my time, and the energy that it took that I was using out of that type of obsession, and I was gone, and I ended up getting the exact same time. And so yeah, it was like a change of perspective of putting a lot of pressure on myself, and then stopping doing that and remembering, like Will said, like, why am I out here? I'm out here because it's beautiful, and I love to be in nature, and I love to be with people, and I love the community of the ultra running and trail runners. And yeah, I mean, so as far as the motivation, I want to bring this up because Michele, you said like you stopped doing the races and you started to just, train to do things long in the mountains. And I decided to do that too. Like a couple of years ago, I started to move slowly into it. And now I'm like, I'm not running as much as I used to run, like not even close. So there was something about
having that race on the calendar for sure. Yeah.
And so my question is like, how do you stay motivated? Like, do you make plans with people to have like big things like, oh, I'm going to go do the 4-pass loop, or during the summer you have things planned with other people, or how do you stay motivated? You know what I'm saying?
I think we're going to learn. I think we're going to maybe we hear Claire's story, and then Michele's going to kind of, tell us, some of the tips that helped get Claire's mojo back.
Well, Claire's still racing though.
Well, she went through a period where she lost her mojo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But Clair, tell us about that. When did this happen? Was this after the FKT pursuit or before?
Yeah, so I think that was oh God, time is a flat circle, June or July of last year. And then I just graduated with my master's in December. And as part of that, to become a dietitian, a registered dietitian, you have to do a bunch of weeks of rotations. And part of my rotation that I was finishing before graduating in September through December essentially was working at a hospital as a baby clinical dietitian in my rotation in a COVID hotspot. And so I had to live down in Pueblo for 12 weeks and, was out at an Airbnb, and my husband works full time and he was like commuting. He's also getting his MBA currently. Life was just chaos. It was just absolute chaos. I was working, almost 12-hour days and all this sort of stuff, all while being in a COVID hotspot. And, from the dietetics perspective, I'm just basically tube feeding patients who are on ventilators and watching many, many of my patients die just day to day. So it was rough. And at the same time, I was finishing my last capstone course, and I just being a new place, time change, getting darker earlier, a lot of life stress. I just literally lost all motivation to even physically move my body outside of what I needed to do on the day to day. And knowing that I had goals coming up in 2022, it became sort of I don't know if it's a shame spiral, but that sort of self-fulfilling prophecy where you feel bad that you're not doing something. And then because you're not doing that thing, it also makes you feel worse because it was the thing that was helping you feel better in life, So losing running was, it's such a centering activity. And so feeling bad about not running and then feeling worse because I'm not running, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I sort of in November, especially, I just didn't do almost a single workout. And Michelle's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm so overwhelmed with life right now. I have got to get back to basics, and part of being back to basics should have been getting out and doing what centers me as a person, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And after I was done with that rotation, I finally was like, okay, it's time to try and find the motivation again. Everything's fine now. Life is less stressful. It's time to pick up this habit again. And then, Michelle and I were talking about this morning on our weekly call. Then you have the issue of you're detrained. And so things don't feel as good as they did before, and how do you continue to find even motivation in that as you try to get your mojo back? So.
And so, Michelle, how did you start to unravel this onion?
Well, it kind of, it definitely takes two, especially when you're in a coaching relationship here. So she had to first come to the table and be like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this again.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we were on the same page again, you kind of just have to be like, well, let's take these baby steps. What's your first big goal? And her first big goal in this case happens to be her race that she's doing in March. And we were kind of getting close to that. So I was like, okay, well, we're going to build ourselves up as slowly as we can so we can keep you still safe and uninjured. And maybe we'll reevaluate to see if this still makes sense for you to do this race if we can't keep up with the level of what we're doing. But she's been doing great so far. She's been going out, doing her mileage. Nothing's ever perfect. You can't always go out there and hit everything that you're supposed to, but she's definitely, I think having the biggest thing is when you having a lack of motivation is one we're talking about here is finding out the reason why you want to do it and what's your passion to bring you out that door to go to keep doing it. And then also you kind of have to just be, easy on yourself. I'm going to go out today, and if I don't feel good after a mile, I might have to turn around and go back home, and that's okay. That's not going to mean that I can't continue running. I'm not a runner anymore. I'm still who I am, and this is still what makes me happy, but today is just not going to work out the way I envisioned it to. So it's kind of just a lot of having accountability, because she's got a coach, which definitely helps when you're lacking motivation, because that's, it's basically like having an accountability partner, like someone that you have looking at your chart to see if you did what you're supposed to do that day. And then just discovering why it is you do what you do, if you still like to do it for those reasons, and if not, if there's different reasons now. Like for Claire, I think that the biggest thing for her was she's like, I need to feel sane again, and running's what makes me feel sane, and like that's kind of what's going to get me out the door right now.
You into mantras at all, Michele?
Yeah, I think that like I don't have like a saying that I always say to myself, as in like a typical mantra, but I definitely have like self-talk or like vision boards or those kinds of things that change, that I feel like change for me and like for everybody. Like you may not be inspired by the same things that you were a couple months ago as you are now. So I just try to think of like a lot of things that are essentially being going easy on yourself, because especially at this time that we're going through right now, like it's so easy to just be like, you suck, you laid on the couch all day today, you just watched TV for 8 hours straight. Like it's so easy to just be like, you are not a good person. But instead you could just be, hey, I went outside, I saw the sunshine, I got to see all these animals and like these people laughing, and I got to be outside for, if it was 5 minutes or 60, however long you got to be out there, and just be happy that you did that, because not everybody is.
And what about to Kelly's question about the when she had the racing on the calendar, she was motivated more to get out. Now that she's kind of adapting this looser non-racing style, harder to keep the motivation.
Yeah, I mean, like I've experienced that myself too, especially when I made that transition. I think that it's really hard for people who are very extrinsically motivated, which like a race would be extrinsic motivation. You have like this specific date on your calendar that you need to be ready and prepared for, and you might get an accolade from that. You might place, you might get a reward, at the very least you're getting a t-shirt. So there's a lot of like extrinsic motivation there, and when that's gone,
belt buckle.
yeah, in the case of 100 milers. But yeah, and when that's gone, and that was the thing that you were using to kind of like drive you out the door, you kind of just have to sit down with yourself, like Will was talking about, and be like, what is the reason why I enjoy doing this? And so for like me, when I like to go adventuring and go up in the Alpine during the summer, you have to be pretty strong, like maybe not fast, but you do have to be strong to go and do that, because you're like at really high altitude, and your muscles got to be there, or you're going to be out there all day, or maybe you won't even summit at all. So I use that as my inspiration. Be like, if I'm going out and staying consistent, then I'm going to be strong enough to get to the top of the mountain, which is what I really want to do. And also being easy on yourself, because maybe you are doing less running right now, but do you need to be running more to be strong enough to get to those adventures and goals? Or is that just something that you're telling yourself that you need because you used to run so much more? You just got to kind of reevaluate the reasoning why you feel like you might need to be running more than you are currently.
Ooh, Kelly, we're gonna have to kick that one back to you.
She kind of nailed that, because I'm thinking, no, I don't. Like I can still.
You just want to be running as fast as you used to run when you raced.
Well, no, I don't even care about the fast. I just don't need my body remembers. Did it for so long. So I don't need it to do it as much. And so I'm like thinking that I do. And so you kind of just nailed that. Like I'm still working on that. Like I don't need to do the miles I used to do, and I still can be just as strong. So just to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. That was a good thing that you said. Totally. Like sometimes we think we need to do it a certain way, and you really just don't. It depends on the person.
Yeah. I mean, there's ultra runners that are running at an elite level, running 30 to 40 miles a week, winning. Not everybody needs to run 60 to 100 miles a week to run fast or to even finish,
Yeah.
You have any, you've got fond memories of Claire Gallagher, Kelly, in the Airstream.
And then Darcy Pugh is one of those people who can like, It's like it does have a lot to do with the way that your perspective is, and how you're using your energy, and how much you enjoy being out there. And we've talked to her about that a lot. Like, you can really narrow down your training and to stay and be just as strong and fit and not get injured, and just the love of it. And like Michelle's talking about, like, why are you out there, and really getting clear on that, and just that drives your energy in a way, just drives you, right?
How do you explain it to your parents? I guess, are they kind of outdoorsy people, adventure people, or are you more like the rest of us and don't have adventure people? And if so, like, how do you explain wanting to do that, FKT pursuit, for example, where they're probably sure you're going to die?
Yeah, that's fair. I did not tell my in-laws that I was doing that effort. I don't know. My parents they're very hard workers, but they are outdoorsy. Like, I, grew up loving the outdoors and going, spending a lot of time outside, grew up on a farm for a little while, and, have a lot of family that lives very rurally, but they definitely are not interested in running 50 miles. So I think explaining it to my parents or to other people is just that, and this is on the meditation topic, like, it's one of the only times in my life that I feel truly present. And it's like, that's such a protected time for me. If I go out and do something in the mountains for 12 hours, like, even if I come back and my body is spent, like, I feel so much more, I feel fulfilled. Like, I feel like I'm back to a more balanced place in my life, because as a, person with a lot of ambition and, trying to be high achieving in all these other areas of my life, like, I really had lost a sense of a place to find balance, or just to be present. And, when the wheels are falling off, or, or you're really enjoying yourself, you have no choice but to be focused on what's in front of you. If that's the scenery, if that's the next step, if that's shoving a piece of pizza in your mouth, like, whatever you can do to continue to get you through that event. And that's how I try to explain it. And it just is up to that other person if they identify or not.
Is that clear? And this is something that comes up a lot on the show too. Is that in your mind? Is that also flow state? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. Part of it's definitely flow state. I think, sometimes when you get to the real suffering, you don't feel as much like you're in a flow state in the current moment. But yeah, it's like one of the only times where I reach that point where I'm not planning about the future, thinking about something that I did before in the past. Like, it's on the topic of mantras, like, getting to be in that moment is really big privilege. And that's major reason why I love ultra distances.
And so obviously you got your mojo back. Was it a gradual thing? Did it all kind of come back all at once, or what was it? What was it like?
I wish it was like some beautiful main character story arc, but I feel like it's probably how most people do. It was a combination of just making the choice and hoping my motivation would catch back up, as well as doing some mental work. I think I had to just say, it's not going to feel great, but like, I have to get out the door and I have to start doing this again. And eventually the little bit of loss of cardio would catch back up, and I'd, love every second again. And that happened to be honest, like, that was the longest break I had taken off of running in 4 years, 3 or 4 years, and 3 years. And it didn't affect me as much as I thought it would. Like, within 2-3 weeks, like, I was back to feeling pretty much myself and like ready to challenge myself, which was great. And that was a great reminder too. Like,
is that true, Michelle? Is that generally true for people that kind of drop off? Do they, even in other sports, do people tend to come back faster than they realize?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the hardest part is when you're first getting back in and just realizing that it feels harder than it used to doing the same thing. But it is pretty normal for someone to be like, oh, wow, like, as long as I'm getting out there and being consistent, like, this is feeling this is starting to feel better again. There is, of course, a loss of cardio that's going to happen if you take, a long break, which we've probably all experienced. And that can be defeating in its own. But if you just
Will is currently on a very long cardio break.
My cardio is running late.
You play college ball, right? I keep telling people that, but then I'm like, I do have that, right?
Yeah, I did. I played overseas for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some cardio.
Yeah.
Sprinting cardio.
Suicides, yeah. They call in basketball they call running suicide.
Yeah.
True.
Oh, so you do just run up and down a court. I tell you, that's a lot more boring than running out in nature. So,
True that.
And with those squeaks of the shoes and
Yeah.
the crunching of the leaves.
So for people that might be experiencing a loss of motivation, let's stick with running since that's specific, it's helpful. But I imagine you could kind of extrapolate out. So if you lost your running mojo, a few things that we picked up on here. It sounds like having something on the calendar is helpful. Like have a goal. Michelle, would you agree? Like define some
it
goal.
doesn't have to be a race, but something that you're excited about doing.
Something you're excited. So that could be like a big adventure you're going to go on. Okay.
Yeah.
And if it's a big adventure, do you recommend having a partner on the adventure? Because it seems like it could cut both ways. It's like, well, now you need 2 people to stick to the training, but it might be also nice to have that partner doing it with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's ideal if you can find someone who's reliable and wants to do the exact same thing you want to do. But
ideal, but not common, maybe.
I mean, sometimes not. No, like life.
I never found outdoors people to be entirely reliable. I'll tell you that, Michelle.
Well, I think the best thing in that case is to still want to do it, even if the person backs out, but at
have
least
a backup plan.
Somebody there that you're training with and that you might be doing it along with. But as long as it's important enough to you that you will still want to do it if that person's not there with you. But
okay, so have a goal. And then what else? What else have we talked about? We talked about the why is a little bit different. Like the goal was like objective proof that I'm doing a thing, but then the why is like why you even want to achieve that goal, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of explore that and get that to the top of the consciousness kind of thing.
Yeah. And then I just think consistency is the biggest thing after that. And regardless of how long you're going to be out there, if you're getting out there for, 4 to 5 days a week, who cares how long it was? The consistency is what's really going to just tell your brain that like, oh yeah, this feels good. I like getting out here and like being in the sunshine.
And to get consistent, do you have any hacks for us? Any tips that?
I mean, I think that it's good to have someone you're accountable to. So like Claire, she uses a coach. It doesn't always have to be a coach. You could have a friend that you meet up with. I have done this numerous times where I virtually meet up with, like I tell my sister, like, hey, can we run at the same time in different places? And we like text each other and sometimes message each other during the run to kind of like motivate us. But yeah, if you're having.
Ooh, what about that, Kelly? I like that.
I like it too.
Right? Like you don't have to run together. You just text that you are running together, accountability partner. Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
On that, front, like if you have somebody that doesn't run the same pace as you, but that they want to also run that day, you could just be like, hey, let's show up at the trailhead together. So we're here at a certain time and we can just go out and run our own pace. I do that quite often. Because right now I'm just, doing more lazical type running. But yeah, I think the biggest part is for motivation is finding other people, because we're a community and we're social and we really respond to people joining us on our ventures. So
like if I were planning an FKT then, and I wanted to stay motivated for the training, I mean, and nobody's doing the FKT with me. Say my name was Claire.
So So, I mean, you can still go out and, run with other people that aren't going to be doing the FKT with you.
Yeah, but if they don't have the planned FK, but they might have their own races. They might have their own stuff going on.
Like find somebody else who wants to get out and plan for hard things. And like, if you're just trying to get out there by yourself, which I would say if you're having a hard time with motivation is probably the hardest way to combat, is you just tell yourself that I'm just going to go outside, and if it doesn't feel good, I'll go back home. Usually once you're out there for like 5 minutes, you're like, okay, this isn't that bad, because getting out the door and getting to the trailhead's the hardest part. So you gotta just have to convince yourself that it's okay if you have to go back, but usually you want to keep going. So
I found it when I was training for my for the Dirty 30. That was my first ultra. And the Boulder Running Club did a meetup every Friday morning before work at the same trail in Golden, which was 10 minutes away. And I had no excuse not to be able to. And it was so helpful that those guys were there every time. There was at least a couple of people that were going to be running. And it just helped me like get into some consistent groove. Otherwise, I mean, it can go months where I don't even think about running. So, well, great. Will, have you picked up any tips here? Have we convinced you that you've got an ultra running future?
No, I don't have an ultra running future, but I love all the tips, to just be motivated about all the things that I love to do and the things that I want to do. And, ultra running just doesn't excite me to do personally.
Wait, but do we have you on the donkey running at least?
I'm excited for all of you. I will come out and do a donkey run with you. I promise. I will come out and do a donkey run because there's a donkey involved. It makes me feel like that's a good starting point for me. And it's just crazy enough that's my motivation. It's just crazy enough that I'll come and try it.
Nice. Any closing thoughts, Kelly? Oh, and Jake, Jake has a question for everybody. Jake, let's do that.
Get into that right now. All righty. So this can apply to you as well, Kelly. And actually,
Jake's added a keyboard, everybody. Check it out. Oh, come on. You got to give us a riff on that thing.
Well, my idea, I kept forgetting to do this at the start, but like if someone tells a joke or something, I could be like,
we got sound of it.
That was probably too loud, but all right, we're figuring it out. We got it for next week for sure.
We're funny enough.
But anyway, there were some zingers in there. Anyway, the question for y'all and Russ, Will, and Kelly. Actually, I think if I get an answer from you as well, and I'll put a song in there too, we'll have enough to put this playlist up this week. But with all of our guests that we've had so far, we've been asking them for a song recommendation for working out, or depending on like what sport they do. It was kind of hard to figure out the prompt, but for running, I think it should be pretty easy. A good running banger from
bangers. All right, I'll break the ice. I haven't offered one up. I got to go Carly B up for sure.
Okay.
Especially when you're going uphill.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little dirty. I don't know. There's probably a clean version. I would recommend the fully explicit version myself.
Oh man. Now I just have a totally different image in my head of Russ running with a donkey, listening to jamming out to Cardi B. I'm gonna rescind my promise.
In my jean cutoffs. Yep. You got to picture everybody. Kelly, what do you got?
A song. Well, I cut this song short today in my fitness class, and I was like, damn, I love this song by Zoo. Baby, I'm faded. All I want to do is get home to you. And I was like, shit, but now we're warming down. I had to cut it off, but I like that song.
Right.
What is it called?
Zoo,
Faded. HU.
All right, Michele, don't disappoint.
I am going to give you a pretty oddball one.
All right, good.
So normally I am not a Nickelback fan, and I want that to be recorded. But there is a Rockstar Sea Shanty by Nickelback with the lottery winners is the people they sing it with. That is banging.
Nickelback out of left field. Love it.
What is that song?
Clair.
So brave, Michelle.
It's just called Rockstar Sea Shanty.
Rock. It's #1 on Spotify.
No, it's not.
No, for Nickelback. It's like the most listened Nickelback song.
Gotcha.
All right, we got Nickelback. Claire.
Oh gosh, I go through moods of like classic rock,
Put her on the spot.
house music, everything.
Yeah.
But
Well, he said running banger is what he said.
Yeah,
he did use that word.
I always come back to Pitbull. Like best wedding music, also best running hype music. So like Time of Our Lives or Fireball. Or
Fireball. Okay.
one of the two.
There you go, Jake. And Will, did you go?
I didn't, but this first song that came to my head is called Sunday Best by Surfaces.
It's a good one.
All right. Surfaces. Here we go. All right, guys. Well, my beloved Tottenham Hotspur are 1-up against Southampton in the 20th minute. I have got to go. Claire Jones, it's been great talking with you. Michele, Dillon, check out the show notes, everybody, online, on Spotify, etc. Instagram, you can check out the handle. Michele, what's your handle? Since people, we talked about your feed being particularly worth checking out.
It's Miss Shell Shock. So
Miss Shell Shock. And I actually agree. I have followed Michele for a number of years, and I do appreciate just some good raw truthfulness out there, truthiness. Kelly McConnell, Will Carr, Jake Trujillo. What are we calling you now, Jake? Did we settle on something? What did we call you last time?
Producer, production assistant, maybe.
Producer, producer Jake sounds good. Yeah.
All right, I can live with that.
And producer Jake, I was supposed to tell you from Kelly that she's got some cool ideas for music. So there you go, Kelly. Okay. I told her.
Cool.
I'm always making fitness
talk to you about that.
Playlists.
Next week, everybody, you can join us live on Wednesday at the noon hour on Mountain Time. We're gonna have the Run Bum on. Do you know, Michele? Do you know this guy, Run Bum? The Georgia Death Race he puts on.
Oh, yes.
Several others.
Familiar, yes.
Yeah, it's a wild race. A friend of the show, Avery Collins, professional runner, is going to be on the show. He's won the Georgia Death Race. I keep saying that. I haven't fact checked it. I assume that he has won it. I think he's won it. If he's run it, I'm assuming Avery's won it. So he's going to be back. Kelly, remember Avery?
I love Avery. So fun.
It's going to be so fun to have him back on the show. Michele, you're very welcome to join. Everybody's welcome to join us on Wednesdays for the show. If you want to jump in on the discussion, you want to get an invite from Jake, but that's really easy. dispatchradioteam@gmail.com, or hit us up on Instagram. Say, hey, I want to join that Run Bum episode where you're going to talk about the Georgia. We'll get you on the Zoom call. You'll be able to actually interact with the guests. Otherwise, just join live on YouTube. You can type comments into YouTube. You can type questions in. And future shows, Jake, help me out. What else do we got going on? We've got skateboarding, I know, coming up.
Skateboarding in March.
Downhill skateboarding. Michele, you ever seen these guys on North Table Mountain bombing down the mountain on a skateboard?
Oh, fun.
Going like 70 miles an hour. Yeah. You're like, these people are going to die, surely. Yeah.
They bombed down my street, too. I want to talk to these people.
Yeah, it's insane. We have one of the best downhill skateboarders in the world coming on the show. So this guy's really cool. You're not going to want to miss it. EP. What else we got, Jake?
I believe Run Bum is next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we got Run Bum next week. Yep.
And
and then Will's got to plan something, huh? Oh, and Michele, Kelly, while we have you on the line, we're going to be doing some mindfulness stuff. Kelly's going to be doing a little bit of a different show, a little less just casual banter around and more, getting into the mental health and the mindfulness aspect of things, right, Kelly? So we'll be looking for some future shows with her. And then Will's going to be planning something, right? Will, you got something up your sleeve for?
Yeah, I got a few things.
All right. Genesee Nutrition, guys. Thank you. Our sponsors, Will's Baby. He's producing the best taste and protein bars available. They're made right here in Colorado. Are they made right here in Colorado, Will?
Yeah, they're made here. Yeah.
Made right here in Colorado. Genesee, right on the label. Happy, active, healthy.
Healthy, active, happy.
No, I nailed it. I should be a paid spokesman. That's amazing. Yeah, and Claire, we're gonna have to have you back on after the Behind the Rocks. Good luck. That's in March, right?
In March.
That's in March. We'll see if Michelle's training is paid off. That's when the proof's going to be in the pudding, right there, right?
Exactly.
All right. We are rooting for you. We look forward to getting you both back in April and discussing the results. Maybe we can get Courtney DeWalter on if she's running it, and just do a Courtney and Claire show.
I would cry, but sure.
And and maybe Michelle could just moderate the whole thing.
I'll just take over.
I'm just trying to get people to do my job for me. That's all. Does anybody else have anything else? Jake, Will, Kelly?
No, this is fun.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We will see you next week, and good luck in Utah. Yay, Claire. Way to get your mojo back. Michelle, great to do a show with you. Yeah. Sound effects. Oh, I also want the burn sound effect. That's a request, Jake. I want when I burn someone. Sizzle.
We'll get on it.
Michelle, do you have any sound requests?
No, I think that I think I would probably change the drum to the dum.
Yeah. Oh, I also think like a bonk noise, like bonking and running, like when you bonk, or just like you don't get the sentence out right.
Yes.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye, Kelly.
Bye, everyone.